Hello and welcome back to the Hyrule Royal Archaeological Survey. Patch is available on the Etsy store. It has been far too long since I last recorded something in this series, examining the archaeology of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. And today I figured wouldn't be my last opportunity, but certainly I wanted to say one final thing before The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom arrives. It's actually in the post right now, heading its way to me. It may even arrive today. Who knows? Fingers crossed. But certainly tomorrow morning. And I figured that I should finally make a video that I've had in mind for a while now, examining very particular features that are found throughout the map in Breath of the Wild, throughout Hyrule. I'm going to do this in no particular order, because it's been quite a while since I first tagged these locations. But we're starting here at the base of the Great Plateau. So here we are, just, I suppose, to the east of the Great Plateau, and I've marked these locations with cooking pots. Because these are Middens. These are places where people have been eating and throwing away refuse of various kinds and forms. And I remember one of the very first things I appreciated about this game was actually the rubbish. Archaeology is rubbish, and we have these magnificent Middens that turn up throughout Hyrule, often in relation to ruins. And I suspect that these ruins are this rubbish is not directly associated with the living population of these ruins, i.e. Hyrule warriors or soldiers, or in this case a garrison of some sort, but rather probably people encamping outside, or maybe actually moblins themselves, in fact, and bokoblins eating their food and just leaving it behind in a horrible pile. The flies, again, it's something which I just really appreciated. It's a little detail that wouldn't necessarily appear first of all in your mind's eye when you've imagined a Nintendo game, Mario, Zelda, Kirby, this kind of thing. But it gives you that sense of rot, that sense of decay, and we can see fruit on the floor. There's a couple of apples there which have been all but completely consumed apart from their core. There's some melons that have been broken open, bones, fish skeletons and detritus. If the clouds will go away, we might be able to get a little bit of a highlight there on the fish. Let's see if we can we zoom in on the fish? Well, there you go. Yeah, that's a bit harder to see, in fact. There you go, some fish bones as well in the rubbish. And it's these signs of living communities and their waste that actually factor into a key part of real-world archaeology. Often it is, in fact, Middens, and the Midden is a place which is which is built up waste, basically. So it's often years, if not, in fact, possibly even generations of people depositing their waste in the same place, and it building up over time. So here we are heading over to the Great Plateau, the Shrine of Resurrection, where we began this amazing journey through this vision of Hyrule 7 years ago now, was it? It's been a long time, but what a world they managed to create for us to explore. So why Middens, though? Why are Middens important? Well, because they often contain biological material, things like food waste, sometimes human waste, evidence of what people have been eating, in terms of grains, for example. So sometimes it's not actually the food itself, but rather perhaps grains that have fallen into fireplaces and fire pits that can reveal something about baking habits, or the types of grains which are being used and harvested locally. And this is probably the first, not so much Midden, but sort of encampment that we come across in the game. Of course, this is where we meet the mysterious old man, and the beginning, I would say, of a Midden. You have the fireplace, you have a baked apple that's fallen into the fire, maybe it's inedible now and it's just been left on the ground. And eventually this sort of material will pile up and create these middens. And if you are a resident archaeologist in Hyrule, there are at least 2 that we know of, then this sort of evidence will be crucial for understanding, for example, what was going on in and around places like the Temple of Time in time immemorial. So we have a couple of middens there. We have, let's see, can we get to that guy? Yeah. We'll go to the tower and we'll glide down. Looking back, the opportunities for genuine interpretation in this game have been tremendous. And now that I've actually got a laptop that works again with the capture device, I'm hoping to maybe examine some of this stuff in Tears of the Kingdom as well. But one of the things that really stood out to me in this game was the way that they used as a design element notable landmarks, real-world navigational opportunities to also tell stories in the landscape. Flooded villages, ruined areas, the Zonai Ruins, and what are they called? It's the Guccini Plains, the barrows of the Guccini Plains. All of this stuff was there to be read, to be understood, and to imply historical events and narratives, socio-economic stuff, geological happenings, warfare. Oh, not these guys. Oh no, I haven't got a sword out because I'm doing a survey. Can you not just leave me alone, man? Oh! I'm gonna have to get better at combat if I'm going to be diving into Tears of the Kingdom soon. There we go. There we go. There we go. Much more like it. The Yiga clan. I wonder what sort of role they might play in Tears of the Kingdom. I'd be amazed if they don't come back. The sort of twisted, inverted version of the Sheikah. Anyway, where is this midden that I've marked out? Oh, it's over here. Yeah, so the middens and the opportunities for midden making not only come from humans, but as I say, also as well, the moblins and bokoblins. And so here we have, I'm just going to run through this camp because I don't actually want to start a fight. We have, this guy's always quite lonely over here by his own little meal area. But we have all of this rubbish deposited in the water's edge by these guys. And very similar stuff. We have fish remains, we have melons, we have bones. And, they've got some reach, haven't they? And actually these sorts of areas are where we find lots of real-world middens, in fact. Especially, for example, Mesolithic communities. Of a winter maybe gathering by open bodies of water, particularly by the sea, and over generations this rubbish building up. So again, the location of that midden is an archaeological reality, well, an anthropological reality, which would become an archaeological reality in the not too distant future, I presume, as these guys move on and natural processes, sand formation, even the movement of soil and grass covers them up and over time. Yeah, so that's another little detail in terms of middens that I really appreciate in this game. But next, if we head over to Satori Mountain, there's another variant on middens, which I just found myself drawn to. Now, obviously, for the most part, middens represent the beginning of archaeological stories, and in a game like this, you can't really go into them and look at the different layers and individual meal events and compare, for example, the animal remains and see if they're wild or domestic, farmed even, in that sense. But the range of details that they do include in these middens for what they are. Again, they're the beginnings of different types of stories. And here we have on Satori Mountain a whole area that's just riddled with ravens and well, what appears to be actually a bone catchment area. This sort of place is where food rolls downhill, as it were, and ends up in a flat place, or sometimes maybe in a crevice in the ground. I can think of a few examples that I was shown as a first-year student in places like Olduvai Gorge, some actually in the Paleolithic of Eastern Europe, where you'd have predators hunting and killing and taking their meals to a certain place, but then the wash in particular, so rain, water, gravity, wind, so on and so forth, would actually force bones down into a place like this. Now I can't help but wonder whether or not, because of all the ravens on the mountain, stuff is being washed down and ending up in a place like this. I mean, this one is a bit more a bit less easy to make a case for being that sort of natural formation process, but it is nonetheless all contained in this little area here without a fireplace. There's no encampment that's happened here, as far as I can tell, and all the leaves as well resting indicates a sort of a natural place where the weather, the wind, the rain leaves things to accumulate. Again, another little detail that I simply had to mark on my travels. Now, a little bit further away, we have our next Midden, which is just down. Let me just get my bearings. Yeah, just down here. Let's jump off this rock, shall we? Oh wow, look at those remains. Yeah, there's something happening here, isn't there? In terms of remains appearing on the hillside. And this guy actually is fully dead as well. Sometimes these remains can actually come back alive. You have the living versions, but also the stale bone versions of these cyclops creatures, but this one is just dead on the mountain. Now, Satori Mountain is important in that sense because it has connections to and forgive me, his first name escapes me, but to a former CEO of Nintendo, and it appears that this is actually a place of memorial for him. He was a lovely, is it a Wata? I'm not going to guess. And so actually lifted across the mountain we have these special places. So here, for example, in the shade of the mountain, these rocks glow. Normally they glow at night time, but actually here, because it's the shadow of the mountain, we have these little sort of groves of potentially sacred places for contemplation, again covered in ravens as well, which may be an indication of oh, I'm heading the wrong way, an indication of it being a place of memorial, possibly. Ravens are often associated with spirits departing, particularly in Northern Europe, and heading off to different places, to new places. In some cultures they're a sign of mourning, you know, and there's a reason why you often have ravens in stereotypical, I'm still heading the wrong way, haunted houses and graveyard locations. So that itself also is something quite interesting to think about. And there is a really lovely spirit of the mountain as well that appears on Satori Mountain, which you can ride, but I don't think I've ever found myself wanting to, because again it seems like a lovely memorial, and let's face it, you shouldn't harness up such beautiful elemental creatures. Oh man, my sense of direction is just rubbish. It's up here. There it is. We'll get there. Tell you what, shall I just fast forward this bit? Yeah, okay. Okay, we're almost there now. Almost there. Let's see why I marked off this particular location, shall we? Oh, not the Octoroks. Do you know, I'm really looking forward to being able to reverse Octorok attacks in Tears of the Kingdom. It's going to be so satisfying reversing time on these hyper-accurate projectiles that they send your way. Anyway, let's put away our weapon. Oh, here you go, yeah, another little midden. This time we have a live moblin skeleton. Let's just... A live moblin skeleton, does that make sense? But again, in amongst the bones of loads and loads of creatures. This represents, again, either... well, actually, again, because there's no real sense of encampment here. There's no old, unused fire pits for cooking. I reckon this represents another place where stuff is ending up via natural processes. There's so many bones here. It must be either creatures bring food here to eat, but not to cook in that sense. So this is animal work, or it could be, again, gravity, wind, rain, wash. But it's all ending up just here. And that really stands out. It's also actually quite a rocky, if not possibly even slightly burned area as well. So it's certainly exposed, which might indicate, as opposed to natural processes bringing stuff here, maybe it's actually, yeah, it is much more like possibly a predator's, I don't know, graveyard in that sense. And that would make sense. I guess you can eat your food here with a good vantage point all the way around. You're not going to be snuck up on or have scavengers take your food away from you easily. Ugh, Octoroks, man, Octoroks. They're everywhere. So next we have, there's a couple of middens just over here, and then we'll end on what has to be probably the biggest midden I've ever seen. So let's head on over to Totosa Shrine in the southeast of the map. I don't know why it's taken me so long to do this. Well, no, I do know why. I've described it in other places. I felt as though I slightly lost a bit of confidence when it comes to exploring and talking about computer games. Sometimes negative voices, a negative voice or two, can really stick in your head. But I've had so many people asking whether or not I'm going to be doing the Archaeology of Tears of the Kingdom, and asking whether or not there was any more of this series to come in recent weeks and months, that yeah, I've got to embrace the good voices, listen to the positive voices, as opposed to letting the negative ones be too loud. Now, where is this guy? Oh, it's up on the mountain top. Okay, let's head over to Totosa Shrine. That's probably going to be easier to get where we're going, rather than climbing all the way up that thing. Typical, eh? Just typical. Liquid all sorts mug for the win. I was very pleased the day I discovered that thing in a charity shop on Wallsend High Street. So here we are amongst, some Zonai Ruins, in fact. Again, very topical for Tears of the Kingdom, upcoming. And we're going to be... Yeah, I'm going to have to change into my swimming gear. And swim up the waterfall. There we go. And hopefully this will get us where we're meant to be going. Ah, come on. Oh no, it's rain, it's wet. There we go. How far are we from it? Quite far, but at least we're on top of the mountain. Okay, shall I speed this up as well? Okay. Oh, no, oh, it's opening. There we go. Whew. You know, I really hope that there are clothes with similar effects to the climbing gear in Tears of the Kingdom. That's going to be interesting to see what they think of in terms of the use of clothing for that game. Anyway, we're almost at our marked encampment. This better be worth it. Again, I marked this out probably a couple of years ago now. Okay. And looks like, well, we're going to be in the leeward side of a mountain top. Oh, where are we? Not more choo-choos. Obviously, when you're exploring a place like this, you don't just trash all the trees. Ah, here we are. Another little encampment. Now, this is a sign actually of encampment, as opposed to it being just a natural place. Obviously, we have some sort of way marker there, so people can, or whoever's using this camp, can easily re-find it. Maybe if they're coming up that pathway there, or maybe from over there. But it's in and underneath an overhang. This is the sort of thing that we do see in real-world prehistoric locations. I don't know, Gower Peninsula, for example. It's a place where it seems that people, and even, you know, pre-Homo sapien Homo species, humans that aren't ourselves, would pick these sorts of spots in the landscape to set up camp. Now, obviously, we're talking here about a historical group of people, so this is, you know, they've got weaving, sticks, a pot lid, which implies cooking, an old fireplace, which is maybe was used for cooking. Incidentally, if you can hear a tool in the background, that's my neighbour drilling into a wall, I think. And also as well, maybe even some slightly cultivated ingredients as well, endura shrooms and flint for starting a fire. So it doesn't look as though it's been recently used, this place, but this does distinguish itself from those places on Satori Mountain, because this actually looks like, with the cloth, with the pot lid, with the fireplace, oh, with the torch as well. This is people. This is or monsters with intelligence doing this, as opposed to just natural processes bringing stuff to this location. And of course, there's a bit of shelter from the rain, which is important. So from here we have, ironically enough, to go back on ourselves, I think. Yeah, there's a pot there. Let's head over to Shaiuto Shrine this time, and hopefully it'll be a fairly straightforward getting to where we're going. I wonder if they're going to have Wolf Link in Tears of the Kingdom. I've got a deck of amiibo cards, which the wonderful Mrs. Soup treated me to for Christmas in the year of the release of Breath of the Wild, and it'd be great if we can use those with the new game. So here we are again in the sort of Faron, what moves from the grasslands and forest into much more of a much more of a tropical jungle, and yeah, we've got to head all the way over there. So actually, shall we use the horse? Let's see if we can call Epona. Oh no, it's not Epona, it's Barty the Black Bart, named after a famous or infamous Welsh pirate. And Barty has the horse armor that lets me basically call him from anywhere. Okay, off we go. Across the Zonai Ruins there. Zonai Ruins presumably have a bridge ending, which has been replaced over time by these planks on top of trees that are growing out of the lake below. So maybe there was a suspension bridge here previously, who knows. back to more Zonai Ruins. Along here we have the owl-like statues that I pointed out in a previous video. I'm really intrigued about that. Some people are suggesting that they could represent wisdom, i.e. courage, wisdom and power, the three parts of the Triforce, that maybe the Zonai have an interest in those three elements, that the owls represent the wisdom part of that triptych. It's a possibility, I suppose. Anyway, I think, yep, our pot is going to be just down here. Try not to antagonise the bowl too much. Ah, it's going to be so good exploring in a new variant of this little world, and also, frankly, coming back to this world. I love Breath of the Wild and Hyrule that they created in this game. I hope Tears of the Kingdom feels like an extension of the world, of like a new chapter in that story, which presumably it's designed to do, because it deserves it. You know, we've been talking about how this world has a history that's implied in the stories that people tell, and in the landscape, and in the ruins, and the archaeology that we can see all around us. And so therefore, obviously, this world that has a history is going to have a future. So this is another Midden, this time by the sea. And I quite like this one, because this one clearly is in use. We have a lizard over there trying to act all cool and coy and not be seen. Maybe this is his or her camp. Although there is a fishing harpoon and an boat oar here. So maybe this actually is people and a fishing camp that's been in use recently by someone who stopped off. We have pottery, which is not to be sniffed at in terms of Middens. This is clearly a slightly different bunch of people again, and they've brought food or oil or maybe fish or something in these pots to this location, or maybe they're gathering that stuff. I'm a bad archaeologist, I broke the pot. Gathering that stuff to take away and to trade somewhere else. But again, we have similar stuff here, similar remains turning up. We have the remains of, for example, you can see a fish skeleton just in the foreground there. We have more melons, more apple cores. And of course, as we talked about in previous episodes in this series, we see the same assets being reused over and over again, particularly when you look at the ruins in places, for example, just in and around the Dueling Peaks in the Ash Swamp, where ruins assets were used and rotated and orientated in different ways to create an interesting effect, but nonetheless revealed also part of the way that this game was made. And so in that sense, similar techniques being used, but again, the tools that the developers had at hand meant that they could create subtly different stories in the Middens, in the rubbish that they're leaving behind. Archaeology is, after all, rubbish, for the most part. And I think they're doing a good job at deploying this rubbish to tell little stories in the landscape. But now, finally, we come to a Midden which I was amazed by when I first came across it. And to get there, we're going to go to Lake Tower and just glide over to our final location. Because this one is, you know, in so much as I've just been talking about how clearly the developers were deploying assets and having fun in terms of the different subtle ways that they could deploy and redeploy in a storytelling way. This one tells its own story, not least because this Midden has an inhabitant who has a story to tell. So let's just make sure. Yep, that's the right direction. Just glide over there. Yeah, when I first came across it, I was like, what? I thought, that's going on the list. Tag. I do wonder how, in the next game, they're going to build on people living in the landscape. There's a hint that perhaps you, or certainly you will be taking advantage of the fact that people are making efforts to rebuild their lives. So there's going to be building material in and around Hyrule. There's a hint that that in and around Hyrule Castle itself, Castle Town may be in the midst of being rebuilt. Oh, this is a different Midden altogether. This is just a Midden. There's a collection of material underneath one of the monsters' tree houses that I thought I'd tag and show you. So this is clearly directly the story is people just chucking, or the goblins just chucking rubbish off the platform, maybe when they're done with their meals, and they're living quite close to their rubbish. But then again, as we've talked about on riversides, for example, people do live close to their rubbish. So even when this platform is long gone, the rubbish pile, the Midden, will be there to be seen. So that wasn't the Midden I thought it was after all. That's the Midden we're after. That's the Midden we're after. Right next to a shrine, and it's fantastic. It's just a thing of beauty. But yeah, I'm glad we spotted that one, and again another subtle little deployment of the Midden Midden aesthetic to tell a story. So here you can hear the flies already. They are everywhere because we are in the midst of a monster Midden. Look at this thing. Now I think I've highlighted this in some capacity in the past. I think I might have taken a screen grab and pointed it out on Facebook or something, on Twitter. But this Midden is truly monstrous. Huge piles, it just goes on for ages and ages. This isn't a community, this is on the edge of a desert landscape, and really on the cusp of, I would suggest possibly on the cusp of where people would want to live. But clearly someone has put all this rubbish here for some reason. And I really like it because actually you get to see some of the stuff that, for example, the fish remains sticking out there, the giant bones, the fish head just there on the left. All this stuff, all these assets, again, from the game design perspective, really on show in the Midden, again with the flies as well. So there's an opportunity to see the range of Midden material. Oh, there's an old, burned probably, hunk of meat in the Midden. But up here we have the source of this Midden. And she's fascinating. Moza. Hey, it's you. You don't have to say a word. You're back to hear the recipes I came up with again, aren't you? I have recipes for a lavish meat dish, an ancient meat dish, and an ultimate survival dish. Which will you learn? Let's learn the ultimate survival dish, shall we? Have to defeat a monster. After that, just find for yourself a cooking pot and toss in tons of monster parts. That sounds gross. In order to survive out in the wild, you've got to be willing to eat anything, she says. That's the idea behind my ultimate survival dish. Very Bear Grylls. I may end up with nothing to eat but my dubious food, but I won't achieve my goal unless I make some sacrifices. I don't see what's so dubious about using monster parts, though. Even when I use ingredients I'm certain will be perfect, there are lots of times I still mess up. Cooking is complicated, she says. Do you want to hear another recipe? Let's try a lavish meat dish. Okay. First, prepare your meat you want to use. I recommend either bird meat or steak. Then you toss in some nice, fresh ore. I'm not sure you can eat ore. That sounds gross. Cooking delicious meat with shiny ore is the only way. How else would one create a truly lavish meat dish, silly? To be honest, what I always end up making is rock-hard food. How did it get that rocky anyway? Even when I use ingredients I'm certain will be perfect, lots of times I still mess up. Cooking is complicated. No, we've been through that one. So this is the reason for the massive monster Midden. Moza is attempting to cook in unconventional ways and coming up with dubious results. So let's try the ancient meat dish, shall we? Okay. First, prepare the meat you want to use. I recommend either bird meat or steak. Okay. Then you'll cook it with something from a broken guardian. An ancient part! That sounds gross. Hey, that's not nice. Cooking delicious meat with something that smacks of history is the only way. How else would one create an ancient meat dish with the likes of which no one has ever seen before? To be honest, what I always end up with making is dubious food, though I don't see what's so dubious about it. Even these ingredients I'm certain will be perfect. There are lots of times I still mess up. Cooking is complicated. Well, it seems that the hard drive ran out of space there. I thought I was recording into the D drive, not the C drive, but apparently I was recording on the C drive. But anyway, I think we covered everything we wanted to cover today for a final foray in this iteration of Hyrule. Well, not really final. A reflective foray, saying thank you very much before we move on to Tears of the Kingdom and maybe doing some comparisons back and forth. If you've enjoyed this series, I'm so glad that you've been along for the journey. If you didn't know this series existed, do go back and check out previous episodes. Again, it's been a couple of years since I actually sat down and recorded something in this world, but it's been fun, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what comes on the morrow. Until then, though, do feel free to check out the Etsy store where you can find the Hyrule Royal Archaeological Survey patch. Get one for yourself, and then you too can be part of the survey of what promises to be a very interesting expansion of this world. But I'm yabbering on now. Until next time, do take care. Bye-bye.
Consider supporting Archaeosoup on Patreon for as little as $1 per month. Link available in the video description. Thank you.